Hey folks, it's your rich uncle here. Today we're going to be going over savings account rates in big banks and credit unions. I was kind of poking around the internet, seeing what the rates were, and it kind of upset me a little bit, seeing how dismal these rates are. I mean, really, what are you going to do at 0.002% in a checking account? We're going to be talking about different options, infinite banking, and rewards checking accounts. We're going to be touching upon Tradelines a little bit. But enjoy the video. All right, hey folks, this is your rich uncle here. We're going to be talking about bank rates here, putting your money while you're not putting it into an investment so it just doesn't grow at a turtle's pace. So I don't know about you guys, but I always get these like mailers in the mail. Every single LLC I gets one of these stupid things. I'm sure all you guys get the same thing, and it usually has some kind of thing on the left side where it says 10 times higher than the national savings rate, interest rate. And I think the national interest rate average is like 0.015 or something like that, which is not 1.5%, but like a tenth of that if you move the decimal point over, or maybe it's 100th of that. It's basically nothing. It's a laughing stock, and this is kind of a rant that I'm going to be doing today, kind of going over and showing you what is I've been seeing out there in the marketplace. I'm going to be showing you my screen share here, and we'll go over this. So here, what you're seeing is some of the levels of the checking account and savings accounts. The savings account rates are a little bit better for this particular bank, which is kind of typical of the big, large banks out there, where it is a 0.02%. That is, maybe I can't say on this YouTube channel, but nonsense. I mean, let's just face it. It's not even a freaking percent. I use a bank account out there that used to give me 1%. I think today with low interest rates, it's about 0.5% in there. Stay away from banks is kind of the first tip here. Banks, especially the big national ones, they don't really have too much competition, and just crummy savings rate. Here I have a credit union. Credit unions tend to be a little bit better. They still have, instead of FDIC insured, they're insured through another mechanism through the federal government, up to $250,000. The interest rates on these and the loan terms tend to be a little bit better than the large banks. I think there's like a credit union day somewhere out there where you're supposed to change over, because it's kind of one of those like PSA things, like, dude, don't get a big bank, go with a credit union. But even if you look at these rates, they suck too, right? Sure, they're 10 times higher than the regular bank, but they still suck, right? They're less than like 0.5%. And in investing, normal investment ranges, except in the crypto world, which to me is all over the place, and I don't like to do it due to the volatility. Normal investments, especially in the real estate world, and from like 5, 10 to about 30% is kind of your range, your window. Of course, you shouldn't be putting your money into the bank as a long-term savings, but as you start to compile money to buy larger investments, such as a house that costs $100,000, we're going to put a 20% down payment, you're going to need to save $20,000, $25,000. Now, for some of the folks out there, you guys are able to save that in a few months or a month, but for most people, it may take over a year to save up. And this is where I'm saying, well, to put the money into a credit union is the alternative. But here's your rich uncle here. This is what the wealthy do. The wealthy use infinite banking or a whole life overfunded insurance policy to effectively bank from themselves. Cut out all these silly banks and credit unions and invest in and put your money into a container where you kind of control. The mechanism is through life insurance. And if you guys Google all the stuff on whole life overfunded insurance, you'll probably find a lot of stuff we're saying it's a scam. But the big thing here is you have to configure it or find somebody to configure it in such a way where you can lower the life insurance component, because that's where all the commissions are coming out of. And to maximize the paid up edition or the portion where you can overfund it. And this is how you're kind of creating a bank from yourself. More information about this, go to SimplePassiveCashflow.com/banking. If you put in your email address, I know it's hard, everybody's asking for your email address, you can get access to our free Infinite Banking eCourse to kind of learn all about it. It'll probably take you about an hour or two to kind of learn how to do this. But the result is what I do personally today. When I have a bunch of money, I don't put it into my checking or savings account. In fact, I only put enough there to pay my normal expenses, maybe about $10,000 or $20,000 every month, just so I don't freak out on if I'm not having enough. But everything else that I'm waiting to put into a large deal or syndication, private placement, or rent a property, I'll put into my life insurance, and it'll start to accumulate in terms of cash value. And when the money's in there, it's growing at a pretty decent rate. Everybody kind of ranges, but about 4 or 5%. And the cool thing is, because it's life insurance, hint, hint, that's the loophole. Because it's life insurance, it's taxed. It has a different tax treatment, or in fact, it's not really taxed at all. And that's why we're using this life insurance component, because of the tax treatment and the fact that we can kind of take money out like a HELOC and put money back in. And again, I mentioned a HELOC. Some of you guys know what that is. For you guys who don't, that's a home equity line of credit. A home equity line of credit is when the value of a house goes up and you have equity there, you can draw upon it. But in this case, you have a life insurance policy, and as you're funding it, the cash value goes up, and it's also growing over time. It's growing. And when that equity keeps going up and up, you are able to take loans from yourself. So initially, when people start off, they're not super comfortable with this whole idea of owing themselves money and having to pay themselves a loan. But at some point, your policy grows large enough where you can kind of float your balance somewhere in the middle. Some people are totally comfortable draining it out all the way, and that's what I kind of personally do. So when I have my cash value in my life insurance policy, I can make payments to myself and accumulate it, and also get the interest rate, which is, probably about 10 times better than what a credit union is giving you, and 10 times, maybe about 5 times better than what I'm personally getting in my secret savings account, which, by the way, if you guys check out my other videos and come to the website, I think you'll figure out what those secret savings accounts are. But, it's still not as good as banking from yourself through this whole life overfunded, or using this infinite banking concept from yourself. So I put money in, it grows tax-free and it accumulates higher. But when I need the money to pay bills or go into an investment, I take a loan from myself. And sure, my money doesn't grow at that point because it's not in there, and I have to pay a loan back to myself. But this is just a mindset thing, right? I think the problem and the mission between our channels, we're trying to dispel a lot of these bad money myths and things that we've kind of grown accustomed to, where it's not necessarily bad to go into debt, especially if it's a good interest rate and if you can take that money and grow it elsewhere at a much higher rate. There's just an arbitrage. This is what companies do, this is what governments do, but this is not what the poor and the middle class do. But this is what your rich uncle does, and this is what the high net worth people do out there. They float their balance in their infinite banking whole life as a cash value, take a loan from themselves, and effectively bank from themselves, and don't really care about your money sitting there because it's growing decently. Sure, it's not growing at an investment grade pace, but it's kind of still moving for you, and you can kind of have this cash value balance there for you when you need it. If the infinite banking thing is totally new to you, and if you can tell, I get really excited when I talk about this and I can kind of talk in circles. Trust me, it works. Go to SimplePassiveCashflow.com/banking, do the eCourse there, but also check out this video here because I know y'all are YouTube folks and fanatics, and check out more of that in-depth video there. But trust me, guys, like, your rich uncle, he's come a long way. I mean, back in the day, I would get a whole bunch of these credit cards, rack up a huge balance, and get a balance transfer and send a check to myself, paying the 0% balance transfer fee and introductory 12-24 months of no interest payments to float the balance, as I made 6% in these magical rewards checking accounts. And this is back in 2010, 2015. As interest rates have kind of come down over the last decade, a lot of these rewards checking accounts have kind of gone a little bit lower, maybe in the 1% to 2% range. And a lot of those rewards checking accounts, if you Google that term, you'll find a lot of these out there. And for some of you, it may make sense, right? Because you don't have that much money and time isn't worth as much to you guys. But that's what I used to do back in the day. A lot of these rewards checking accounts, you have to do like 12 debit transactions. I was crazy. I didn't value my time back then. I had like 3 of these accounts and I had to do 36 transactions. I can remember back in the day when I was in Seattle, Washington, I would take like these 3 stupid debit cards. I would go to the gas station and pump my card for like 10 cents. And then I would get like a call on my cell phone where they're like, oh, we detect fraud and we're going to shut down your card. So I got smart, and then I learned that if I do 3 transactions at a time, so I do 9, and then I drive my butt over to the next gas station. And then I realized I needed to like switch up which days I did it, as I'm freezing my butt off and I like trying to get pump 10-cent transactions to hit my 12th quota of the month to get my higher interest rate on that rewards checking account. I don't do that stuff today. I stopped doing that stuff consciously a few years ago. But a lot of that, that guerrilla warfare, the hand-to-hand combat of saving your money, doing those kinds of things in the beginning is so important, because I think the hardest part of building your wealth is in the beginning. When your net worth is under $100,000, it's a game of inches, just like football is. The more you can save means the more money you can put to investments and get on that escalator to climb your wealth. Once you get up to a certain point, over $1 million, couple $1 million net worth, you stop doing a lot of these things, as money is more valuable than time. But right now, you might be watching this video under $250,000, maybe even under $1 million, and you might still need to do these types of things to make more money to invest. Another good idea is check out our Tradeline eCourse, SimplePassiveCashflow.com/Tradelines. Great way to make about $5,000 to $10,000 a year, renting out your authorized user slots. We'll do another video on that in the future. But this whole thing about savings accounts is all about like, what is the most passive way you can have your money grow for you? It doesn't need to be in Bitcoin. It doesn't need to be in a real estate development deal making huge returns. But what I see from most people is they have a large chunk of their money not doing jack, right? What if we can have some of that money making 1% or maybe 5% in an infinite banking type of arrangement where they're using whole life overfunded insurance? Then that's smart, right? At the end of the day, all your money needs to be working for you. And if you've got like a lot of your stuff not doing anything, like sitting in your home equity, sitting in savings accounts, not doing anything, that's what we need to work on first. And when I work with clients, that's what I'm usually looking out for. Where's the low-hanging fruit first before we start to go on the aggressive offensive end and finding investments, making our money work that way. So that's it, folks. We talked a lot about stuff today. We talked about infinite banking, savings account rates, stay away from the big banks, go to credit unions, and start to implement your infinite banking policy. We talked a little about Tradelines, and we talked a little bit about, for you guys getting started, you may have to do some of these pain in the butt types of things, or PITA as I call it, pain in the ass. If you want to see about all the other pain in the ass things I used to do back in the day, go to SimplePassiveCashflow.com/PITA. But thanks for watching, share it with your friends, and also if you have any kind of things that you guys have found to save money, drop into the comments below. I'll put it up on my website, on that PITA website. And thanks for listening. Bye.